We are all imperfect beings, yet we're trying to create a perfect world. I've been doing quite a bit of traveling over the past few weeks and months. I was in Australia, I was in Bali, and whenever I visit a new city or a new country, I always try to look for good restaurants to go to. And if you're anything like me, you probably use something like a TripAdvisor or something like Yelp to try to find good restaurants. And it's actually interesting because whenever I am looking for a restaurant, the first thing I do, I open up these apps and I look at these reviews. And I remember even in San Francisco, my wife and I were walking around and we had Yelp open and we're like, well, where should we eat? Let's look at the restaurants around us that have good reviews. And we were standing next to a Mexican restaurant and we could see people eating and the food looked good. But we opened up Yelp and we saw, oh, it only has 3.5 stars. We don't want to eat at that place. It's only got 3.5 stars. The one across the street where there's nobody in there, that one has 4.5 stars, so we should go there. And we kind of caught ourselves and we're like, wait a minute, that's a little odd. And I started thinking about this and realized that we are constantly striving for perfection. We will only eat at restaurants that have 4.5 or 5 stars. We will only go on a date with somebody if their match online is almost perfect. We will only hire somebody to come to our house if their reviews online are perfect. The Uber drivers or the Lyft drivers, we want the ones that have the highest amount of stars. We're very obsessed with perfection. And with all these algorithms that are out there, we're constantly being evaluated on our perfection. There's actually a Black Mirror episode sort of emulating this, which is kind of freaky. But it really makes me wonder what's going to happen in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. We are all imperfect beings, yet we're trying to create a perfect world. We're trying to work with only perfect companies. We want perfect food. We want to work with perfect people. And that does not exist. So what is the solution? I think it's okay for us to embrace the imperfect. You remember the old days before all this crazy technology? You would walk down the street and there would be people outside the restaurants and they would say, hey, come on in, try our food. You didn't have Yelp. You didn't have any of these technologies. You would look at the food, you would look at the menu and make a decision to go inside. And so what I think this means is that we need to remember that the world still operates by relationships. We are still humans, and it's okay for us to make decisions without having technology by our side. Because as I mentioned, we are all imperfect, right? I mean, we like getting that imperfect cookie, the cookie that looks like it's homemade, it's not perfectly symmetrical. It's okay to be an imperfect cookie. It's okay to be an imperfect soul. And so I think this is something that we really need to be aware of going down the coming years, because it really makes me wonder what's going to happen where everybody constantly strives for perfection, even though we are all imperfect people living in an imperfect world. Let me know what you think.